Um, Hello and welcome to today's February's digital department update with the Center of Excellence for Advanced Multidisciplinary Projects, known as CAMP. Just some housekeeping things before we get started. This event, I'll record it and we'll upload it to our YouTube channel. So if you need to watch it again or pass it along, it'll be there. Everyone's always curious who's here. So if you can in the chat function, just say hi. Please list your class and major. So without further ado, please welcome Dr. Ryan Kuntz.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Yes, like Sarah said, my name is Ryan Kuntz. I'm going to get my screen to share here. All right, so I'm going to be doing a little update on camp and what we're doing this year, along with some different results that we had last year. Talk a little bit about who we are, because some people don't necessarily know exactly what we do. And so I really wanted to start with that. Who are we? So camp right now is me, Ryan Kuntz. I'm currently the interim director. I also am the integrated manufacturing specialist. And so I have my PhD in mechanical engineering from the School of Mines. I'm a School of Mines grad for all three of my degrees. And so in that role as manufacturing specialist, spent a lot of time doing design and planning and GD&T with the students here at the School of Mines. Dan Dolan, who's our camp founder, is still here. He has a volunteer role right now, but he's still around. And we have two positions, a camp coordinator that's vacant, and of course the interim position, the director, that is vacant as well. And we're hopefully going to start looking to hire those out soon. And so it won't just be kind of a 1.5 man show right now. So why camp? I love these. I've got a couple of quotes from Robert Keegan, who's a developmentalist and is really sets up the foundation of what we do in camp, why we do it. And so it says here, the single greatest source of growth and development is the experience of difference, discrepancy, and anomaly. And so that's what we really try to do in our program, is let the students have this just the developmental experience, this experience of discrepancy, anomaly, things that don't work perfectly like they do in the classroom. We're also kind of a form of teaching, and there's kind of an illustration of what that means. It's really broad implicit learning. It's a broad learning, but then you'll have deep specific discipline learning. We really like to encourage that in our students. So I said I liked quotes from Robert Keegan. This was one that he gave at a keynote at the 2015 Tea Summit. And I'm not going to read the whole thing here, but I'm going to mark out some of the red letters because it really goes to illustrate what we do in camp. He says, put them in teams, give them a collective project, make them work to a deadline, create the pressures and anxieties, create all kinds of interesting problems that people have to learn to deal with. And so above all, capture the difficulties of this kind of learning. That's really, I think, a good quote, a good idea of what we're trying to do. We want these students to have pressures and anxieties, because that's really where we develop the professional, and in this case, the professional engineer, is by having them go through those problems. If there's no challenges, then there's really no reason to move forward, and that's really one thing that we like to do. So what is camp? Camp is much like athletics. We do have a set of 10 intercollegiate engineering design competition teams that we work with. And so we really provide engineering support and developmental support for the students when it comes to the teaming, leadership, and things like that. We really emphasize this professional technical development, and so we want them to be able to go through starting from the abstract, going in from the computer, getting a design made, and then building a project, really applying their engineering. There's product management that goes on. We manufacture, test, build. That's really the keys of what we try to do. On the more developmental side, we really want to provide a significant developmental experience for the students. This can be shown through kind of improving their social emotional intelligence, helping with their teaming and leadership, and promoting this idea of self-authorship. This is a Robert Keegan term. I put in here just to give you an idea. That's like a professional maturity that we're really wanting to see in our students by graduation. And I think by calling it professional maturity, you'll understand what we're looking for as we work with our students. Our vision, we really want students to demonstrate this self-authorship. We want them to be the professional. We want them to be the mature professional. And then our mission is to really focus on multidisciplinary teaming and leadership. We are an umbrella organization for these different teams. So we have different teams. They're all student organizations here on camp. We're kind of the overarching umbrella organization. We provide seminars, we provide teaming and leadership, design, machining, welding seminars, all the things that you need to do and know to be able to build and compete with a competition vehicle or bridge, in the case of this picture here, or canoe, or whatever it might be, robot. We have some space. We help with purchasing and travel. We do provide a common design environment. It's a neat, kind of unique environment for the students, and all these different teams can get together, and although they're working on separate projects, they have the resources of the other teams and the expertise from the other teams. Specialists, the coordinators, work with the students and teams to improve who they are, and then we have some focused student development as well that we work on with the students. So camp is co-curricular. That's usually a question I'll get asked quite often. So students will work after class hours. They really have this attitude of a dedicated student athlete. And so when you think of an athlete and what they do, we have the same thing in camp. It just happens that we're working in our career path in this particular case. It's not volunteer. Volunteer, I don't think is a great word for it. The students choose to be here and they dedicate time. Some students will turn their camp projects into a full-time job. Although we really encourage them to be balancing, what they're doing in camp with their schoolwork, with their personal life, and things like that. So camp, we're collaborative, we're not competitive. We want to be competitive outside the university, and we want to compete well against other universities, but this idea of collaboration, again, I hinted to it. It's a neat synergy to see students from our Baja team working with our formula team because they're interested in suspension dynamics. And it's one thing that the formula team works very hard on suspension dynamics and the Baja team doesn't, but they wanted to start integrating that. So you see that sort of energy and synergy. And that sort of thing happens across our different projects, whether it's the Formula Baja or in this case here, I've got a picture of our super mileage vehicle. It's a really neat opportunity. We try to build on strengths of the students, and rather than trying to fill in their weaknesses, and we work towards values. We ask the students, what do they value? What's important to them? And for many, they start to value what they learn in their projects. We're, of course, experimental learning. We're adding to the book. We really talk about the teams. The teams is working, is helping the individuals so that they can participate well in the teams so that we can then have good products. We ask for excellence in the technical along with excellence in the social, or what we would call the teaming and leadership side. And some of the books that we use, we're using Stephen Covey's 7 Habits kind of as a basis for a lot of our personal type work, along with a mastering leadership book by Anderson and Adams, if I remember right. So what do the students do? What's their role? So they have a role, and part of it's to participate, to ask questions, to get involved, to work on and have their integrity. They have a responsibility. They need to be counted on for us to be able to have these projects and to be able to get them done, students have to do things, and so that's part of the students' role: responsibility, accountability, being a willingness to accept that responsibility and take things on. And this is shown time and time again by our students. What else do they have? They have some demonstration. They need to demonstrate their positive attitude. They really do need to be they need to be self-motivated. It's one thing when you're dealing with a co-curricular project. There is no class, there is no teacher that's saying things have to be done, but there is a competition, and that can motivate and drive many of the individuals on the camp teams. So professional performance, what else we ask the students? So we have shows evidence of interest in learning over aggressive drive to be right or push their own agenda. Contact appropriate personnel, demonstrates an appropriate balance between the humility and confidence. We're really asking for a balanced professional as they come out of these teams. Demonstrates maturity in response to challenges, willingness to help and ask for help. So again, all these things that we're asking the students to do, we're looking for as evidence that we're doing the right things. And so as you can see, there's some really neat things that can happen here. So what about the staff side? What we really try to help with the students is to be accessible. This would, I mentioned some different seminars that we do. We go to team meetings, have office hours and things like that. We set up and organize camp and its curriculum to really just help. We look for what the students need, what the teams need, and try to provide the information, the environment. Teach teaming, leadership, design for manufacturing concepts, all the things that are needed to get these projects to completion. Technical support, safe lab equipment, and then give feedback, where we can help and what we can do for the different teams. So here's a list of our current active teams and the advisors we have. So we currently have the Chemi-Car, Concrete Canoe, Steel Bridge, Human Powered Vehicle, Robotics Team, Aero Design, a Clean Snowmobile, Formula, Baja, and Super Mileage. Those are all active teams. Many of them do have senior design associated with them, and I think I talk about that here in a little bit. Camp participation, this is a little more interesting type numbers when it comes to how camp is doing. Since I started as interim director, I've been keeping track of essentially the safety waivers that we have to have the students sign to give access to the CAT lab. And so over the past 3 years, we've seen an increase in student participation from what must have been about 118 we're up to 139, I think is that last year. So we've seen this steady increase even through COVID, even through as the competitions have actually had some different struggles. And so that's a really neat metric to see. I do make note here that because these are safety waivers in the CAT lab, we do have our Steel Bridge, Canoe, and Chemi-Car and Robotics team that have lab space in other areas, so they don't necessarily have to have their safety waivers. So my estimate is we have about 250 participating, consistent participating camp students here on campus. So whatever that works out to the percentage of the student body, a little over 10% of engineering students here on campus. It's just a good guess. I think if I had actual email rolls, those numbers get to be a lot larger. But we certainly see a difference between some students who will show up and put their email on email list versus those who participate and are really actively engaged. So, and I'm blowing through this pretty quickly. So this year in review, so this is really gives an idea of the update and what's happening now with camp. Our operations have returned to normal, essentially in person and on campus. Everybody can imagine that with COVID, we had last year restrictions on the number of students that we could have in the lab and the number of teams at a time. And then, of course, we were shut down the year before towards when we were starting to build things. And so to get back to this, not restricting the number of students in lab has been a wonderful thing to see. The students just love it and thrive with it. That's part of the lifting the capacity and schedule restrictions on the CAT lab. That also pertains to our design lab. All of our competitions are attempting to have in-person events, except for that's the human powered vehicle competition. So as of today, there is on the books what would be 9 competitions that should be going out and having in-person competitions. Always subject to change, but this is a great, a lot better than last year. We only had one competition that was in person, and that was our Baja competition. Everybody else did virtual competitions, and so that's essentially presenting their reports and giving a sales presentation and getting scored that way without the vehicle component, without the building component. Formula, Baja, Snowmobile, Aero, and Super Mileage all have mechanical engineering senior design projects. So that's a nice note. It's kind of an infusion of sometimes different students. Sometimes they're students that have been in the camp programs for a long time. That does give these students some curriculum support, curricular support. It does give them a grade attached to what they're doing when they're working on their projects. Last year, our Baja team placed 10th overall in their national competition, so they were actually able to go and compete. Steel Bridge placed first at the regionals and 14th at nationals. Now, the Steel Bridge is an interesting competition in that they it was a virtual competition, but they were able to build their bridge and then videotape it being loaded here and essentially videoed its performance and then submitted that performance as part of their competition. So although they didn't have to travel, they were able to build their bridge, compete, and again, place first in their regionals and 14th overall. And then the ChemiCar is able, their nationals, now ChemiCar goes on a slightly different schedule than everybody else. They actually do their nationals in the fall, and then they do regionals in the spring, so it's kind of backwards for our school cycle. But they were able to place 11th overall at their nationals that they just would have finished competing at. Guess this wasn't too bad. That's kind of what I have for an update. So let me stop this so everybody can see me here. So I'm welcome to open it up to questions that you might have for me and go from there.
Yes, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat section or the Q&A. I'll watch for them too.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks. Thank you, Ryan. We need to get I think next it'd be fun to hear, like if we could get some of the teams to come on and hear from the students themselves. We'll get that.
For sure.
That might be make them talk.
It's always, the student's perspective is always the best perspective, I think.
Yeah, we'll work on that one.
Sounds good.
While we're waiting for questions, Lord Bress does have one. Yes. Can you give examples of team and leadership training?
Okay. Team and leadership training. So we have two, well, one I'd consider more of a class, but on Tuesdays we have our, its name's been changing a little bit, but I'm calling it the fundamentals of camp. And so there's where we will talk specifically about teaming and leadership. We like to run scenarios, and so what that means is we'll give the students some situation. You're having trouble with these two team members. How do you work through that? And so we'll discuss how you go through those sort of things. And so that's kind of a weekly thing. And then on a monthly basis, we do advanced leadership, where we get a little more in depth into those sort of scenarios, and they get a little more broad. And so that's part of, and it's honestly not my expertise when it comes to the teaming and leadership side, when it comes to the training side of it, but that's what we've kind of done in the past, and what we continue to try to do. Again, it's the experiences that these teams get. You get to be put into a team. You've got to have a leader that forms and comes out of that, and then all of a sudden there's the realities of what does that mean? What does all the personalities, how do you deal with the personalities and things like that? And so we help and work through that with each student. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Lots of hands-on.
I have a question. What are, if alumni wanted to get involved, what are different ways that they could get involved with the camp program?
Boy, that's a great question. So besides just financially, and of course that's always, teams will be looking for support to pay for their different projects, because all of these projects are funded by the teams. So beyond the support that camp gives, there's that. There is, I am sure, a wealth of expertise that could be placed into these teams when it comes to alumni. And so if you wanted to get a little more hands-on-y, contacting me and me getting you in contact with the team could easily, with Zoom meetings now, could get your knowledge into these teams. So there'd certainly be, I'd want to say, advisor support or mentor support is always an option. So Trevor, how are they progressing on their builds? Well, let's see, Trevor, they're always behind, but things are progressing. Let's see, I'm trying to think of updates. Frames are built for Formula Car and the Baja, and so that's always a big milestone for those teams. I am busy, and so yeah. And so we're getting machine parts going through, and so it's hard to say specifically, but everybody always feels behind. That's normal. If they didn't feel behind, they'd, I don't know, take it easy. Yeah, depends on how much the competition goes. Yep, for sure. And of course, our snowmobile team, and their competition's in a month, so they're really feeling the pressure.
Remind me, where does the snowmobile go?
Michigan is where they're going to be, and it could be interesting if, as we're waiting, if there's any more questions, I could try to find that information. That would have been a really good thing to have in my presentation.
Well, they will have snow for sure. They should have snow.
Yep.
No, Mary Jane, no, you could for sure share it with some high school teachers for recruiting. Well, it's open to the public, so if you remind me, I'll get it to you. So, and and speaking of competitions, so I do know ASCE, the Steel Bridge, and I think it's both, the canoe will be down in Denver, the Denver area, April 8th and 9th.
Yep, that sounds right.
I'm trying to think of where everybody else is. So,
well, I have it. It's just going to be, finding it under pressure.
That's okay. Well, and we could always send it. put this in the newsletter, and we can always, if once you find it, we can always send it out. So if people wanted to, or add it to your slides, then we can include the slide.
Perfect.
So that'll work. We'll get the information just in case anyone wants to go. I don't know how many we have up in Michigan. It is the northern Upper Peninsula, so
Yeah.
yes, but yeah. So if anyone, any other questions or while we're waiting, my office is doing a postcard writing campaign. So if you are interested in helping write postcards to the incoming freshman class, please let me know. I will mail you the postcards, and all you do is just write on them, keep them very general, and then we pay for the postage for you to mail them back. So that's all taken care of, and then admissions office will then take them and mail them out to the class. Our goal is to get them to all the accepted students. Those who have committed and not committed is our goal. We have a set a goal of 1,000. So if you're interested, let me know. Oh, are there any competitions that you'd like to add to your menu?
That's a great question. I'd say we're probably always looking for competitions, although and so I'd never be opposed. Let's put it that way. We're kind of have been looking for some more, I guess, a diverse look at competitions. And so instead of, we're really focused on vehicles right now. If we could somehow diversify that a little bit to be a little more interesting for other majors besides, I admit this because it is what it is. We're very mechanical focused. And if we could find a competition that was at least seemingly less mechanical focused, we'd always be interested in that sort of thing. The Defense Department, there's some ideas in the works, not specifically, but there was some sustainability type projects and some different things. So they're always there. Since our projects are student associations and they are kind of run by students, there's always kind of two hurdles that you have to get. You have to find the competition, then find an advisor that's interested, or at least you need to find students that are interested, and then get that advisor. And so, I'm always interested in suggestions. So if you have any, send them my way, and I'll see if I can find student interest.
That's good to know. And if you're ever in camp, if you ever come to campus and would like a tour of the cat lab, I'm sure Ryan would give you a wonderful tour.
Happily.
It's always fun to walk in there and see all the projects that they've been working on. And I know they have a wide variety of projects in there.
Yeah, and even more fun, if you show up at the right time, we'll have students around, and they enjoy to show off what they're doing as well, because again, they do get invested and they love their projects. So
okay. As always, I'm always looking for feedback on my events. So if you have any questions, comments, thoughts, concerns, or ideas, please fill out the survey. I dropped it in the chat. I'll work with Ryan because I'm sure he's the one that can prod them, but getting the students to come on and talk kind of what about they're doing, their different projects. So it's a good update when you can hear from students too.
Yeah.
Especially if they can talk about what they're doing.
I agree. Yeah, it would be a great one of these. So
yeah, we'll work on that one. So I'll add that to my list of possibilities.
Sounds good.
Might have to be a night one, but that's okay. And the other things, we have a couple big events coming up. They're virtual. Dr. Jim Rankin and Scott Roush, alumni, both alumni, Dr. Rankin's EE78, Scott Roush EE75, are doing for our digital lunch and learn on Thursday, February 17th. They are doing a talk on the new avionics minor that the department is adding in. I'll drop that in. And then we are hosting, it's hard to believe, but it's our 4th year of doing our student alumni trivia night. So if you're interested in like trivia, you can be a freelancer, come in as you want, or you can even put a team together. So, and then we try to get the students to participate, which is really fun. And then next month for the department update, the chemistry, biology, and health science department will give us an update. They've kind of merged together, so they're a little bit bigger. But I will drop these links in the chat for you if you're interested in registering for them. We'd love to have you. There should be some really interesting topics. And anyone, if you do have any questions that you think of afterwards, after the webinar, please feel free to email me or email Ryan, and I'd be happy to help connect you. Mary Jane, I will work on getting that for you. Again, this event's been recorded, so if you have any, or I will get that up to YouTube later today, and I really appreciate you attending. Thank you, Eric.